Coming up on the Ramble today, the Blades are getting closer to a takeover deal. Targets identified in several positions. And Darren Smith re-signs with Twitter on a one-year deal. What's happening, Blades? So, I know we're all desperate for news. I know we're all checking Twitter, refreshing all the time, whether we can or not, if Elon lets us. I know we're checking Facebook. I know we're checking Instagram, everywhere we can for news about the Blades. You know where to come. Come see Jimmy on Blades Ramble. We've got it all here. So what's been happening? So Twitter is one of the main platforms I use, and it's where I've formed a lot of contacts, and sort of it's where I advertise the Ramble the most. But Elon's decided to mess about with your views and the number of posts you can see every day. So it's gone haywire, and some people aren't able to read their own tweets or replies to their tweets and things like that. So while that's an annoyance, Darren Smith yesterday had not threatened because it were a genuine intention, to come off Twitter. Now Darren, as we know, I talk about him regularly on the Ramble. He's a friend of the channel, and I'm hoping to get him on at some stage, which is sort of veiled agreed to, but he's going to go on with Nick and Sheffield United Way boys first. Anyway, he's done a U-turn. He's spoken to Prince this morning and released a tweet, which is what we're going to get into in this video. But he's released a tweet to say the Prince has asked him to stay on Twitter. So hence the line about him signing a new one-year deal with Twitter, because that is great for us, having somebody close to the club. And obviously the Prince may not be involved going forward, and if that happens, then it might just be more opinion-based that Darren chips in. But either way, his updates and his content and his contributions and responses have always been really appreciated, and long may it continue. So welcome back to Twitter, Darren, after your very brief hiatus. So we're going to jump into the latest news that comes from Darren. Now Darren starts his tweet by telling us all that this morning him, Nick and Hal from the Sheffield United Way and the Prince had a call this morning. We'll get there one day, Ramblers, but at the moment we're not on that level. Them Sheffield United Way boys. So they'd all had a call. They'd all had their arms around each other, all chatting and you know, hugging. It's mine to be hellish. I still get your thoughts. But to be fair, so that's allowed Darren to share some information, which we're going to touch on now. First bit of news, which I think is really significant, is Darren's expecting a 5 to 6 week time period for a takeover, certainly for news to come out in terms of a takeover deal. Whether that's exclusivity, we don't know at this stage, but things are progressing very well. He says we're still on track, and that in itself is really positive news. We knew that it wouldn't affect this window, so the necessity for a deal to be done in record time isn't there anymore. It'd have been great to have got a new ownership in prior to the window, so we had a little bit more in terms of finance and backing. But if that comes a little bit later, then absolutely fine. We've missed the deadline for this window anyway, as we know. So yeah, takeover pending, watch this space. So something again which I think the Prince don't get enough credit for is this was a calculated move, if you like. That's probably not a very good way of describing it, but the Prince is aware that fans will get impatient and anxious around sort of pre-season and plans and players and transfers and things of that nature, contracts. So I think this meeting has been aimed at getting the news out to fans, whether that's through Darren or Nick and Hal or myself or whoever it might be. He wants to sort of let the ripples go, not to disturb any deals that are ongoing, but certainly just to let us know, listen, Blades, things are happening. Don't worry. We're on track. And it's positive, and I appreciate those. You know, it's not an official club statement or anything particularly formal. It's more sort of a back way in to letting us know that things are happening, which I don't mind so long as with some sort of communication from the club. So from the chat, what Darren's saying is the Prince has let him know 4 positions that we're looking to strengthen, and that is left wing back, left centre back, centre midfield, and a striker. So that's music to our ears, no doubt about it. I still think we need a goalkeeper, and I think that may well be in consideration if there's anything left in the pot towards the end of the window, if you like. I've not heard much about James Trafford, if I'm honest, and now you hear other teams like Leicester who can pay more than us ridiculously, who are sniffing around. So that might be gone before it's even started, unfortunately. And as we dissect Darren's tweets a little bit further, he goes on to say later that he's never seen any of the 4 play. So you can take from that they're going to be overseas players. Now, I'm just going to start throwing things at the wall because obviously the left wing back, I'm on record regularly saying I want Ryan Manning. And I know Ryan Manning's in the conversation. We talked about that on the last ramble. He has spoken to the club as far as I'm aware. And he wants to come. Whether he ends up being the one that we get, who knows. But in Hecky we trust. That's all we've got to say on that. If it's Manning, if it's somebody else, we'll see. But it sounds like the four lads lined up for the 4 positions are all foreign lads. Because, as I said, Darren said he's never seen them play properly. Would Slimani fit that bill? Turkish International, playing at Bromby currently, been heavily linked with United. Danny Hall's just released an article saying that Bromby have said that they're willing to let him go now, and that paves the way for United to come in. That would fit. That would fit the profile of a young centre midfielder come in. International experience, low fee if it's a permanent, because with foreign loans you can get more. You're allowed 2 domestic Premier League loans, as we know, we've talked about at length, but you can have up to 7 foreign loans, or loans in total including foreign loans, so potentially 5 from overseas. So that's a huge bit of flexibility that we hadn't really considered. And look, when I've been doing these rebuild videos, we're limited in what we can suggest, aren't we? Because I don't know the foreign market. I can only touch on these players once they're identified, and then do a bit of digging on them and bring that to you. I couldn't tell you, what the equivalent to a Ryan Manning in Belgium is, because I don't know the league and I don't know the players. So, whereas the club will have heavily scouted these players. So if it does end up being 4 foreign lads, then we can rest assured that they'll have done the due diligence. Look at Anel. That would be the one that I point to in terms of plucking somebody from foreign shores, dropping him in our team, and look how well he's done. So they've got credit in the bank for me with this. I would also say the striker, we've been heavily rumoured to be in for Benny Traore. Is he going to be the one that we bring in? You can also sort of put 2 and 2 together. Might end up with 5 here, but hopefully it's €5 million to go get him. But I'm not saying, Darren, correct me if I'm wrong, but I can't see Darren sitting and watching the Swedish league either. So Traore would fit that profile of him having never seen Traore play. It's exciting to think about. Again, I would encourage those of you that haven't already, go and watch this kid's highlight videos. Yes, I know it's a highlight video and it doesn't sort of show the flaws in everything that he does. However, it's well worth a watch because could he be the long-term Illiman replacement? And that is ridiculous boots to fill. And Illiman, for me, will go on to be an elite footballer. But this time last season, he wasn't. He was in and out of the side. Morgan Gibbs-White sort of helped his progression, I think, in a large way. So this has been his breakout season with United. And hopefully Benny Traore will be the one to come in. It's just exciting to think about. You don't want to get too far down the road in case we're on the wrong track. But I think he's one to watch potentially in case he comes in. And fingers crossed he does. So, what do you think? Who do you think it is that we're linked with? What sort of deals do you think we should be doing or will be doing? Do you think we'll get Tommy Doyle back in? I'm trying to do some digging around that as to what's happening with him, because one minute it could be permanent, next minute it's a loan, next minute it might not happen at all. It's really exciting now to know that things are picking up. The takeover's going on in the background. You've got to think that if somebody gets exclusivity within 5 to 6 weeks, then we'll be able to start negotiating contracts with the squad. I know that won't officially happen until a full takeover takes place, but surely they would trust in Hecky to say which players are your longer term squad members and things of that nature. So what I'm going to finish on, what I will say is, if you're feeling down about the Blades or apprehensive in any way, the ramble is here. to give you hope. That'll make sense later on, but we continue to evolve as a channel. I noticed that bladesramble.com were getting slower as we were adding more information to it, so I've spent another morning the other day on YouTube teaching myself how to clear your website of all the junk and get it moving faster again. So apologies to those of you that have tried it and thought, well, this is too slow, I'm clicking off. Give it another go. I've now put a Twitter feed on there, so if any of you get limits on Twitter and you can't read anything, then I post my own thoughts on Twitter, I retweet things, or you might not even be on Twitter at all, but I've got my Twitter feed on bladesramble.com now in social section. So give it a go. Obviously, please like, comment and subscribe to the channel. We're aiming for 2,000 subscribers come kick off. And we're climbing, but not at the rate that we need to get there. So if you could please spread the word, it'd be much appreciated. Any support you can offer is really welcome. I'll bring you the news as and when it drops, but things are moving now, starting to roll. We're in the Prem. We're back pre-season training today. I ain't even touched on the fact that Theo Williams has gone to Fleetwood on a permanent deal from our youth setup. No doubt we'll have a healthy sell on, but there were no pathway through for him. We're back in the Prem, aren't we? And it's going to be more difficult for these younger lads to break through. What I do want to see this year, as I've touched on, I want to see proper loans for some of our lads. I want to see Ollie Arblaster out on a season-long loan in Championship or League One. I want to see it same for Harry Boys stepping up from League One last year to the Championship this time, out on loan for the season. Leave them. Don't do what we did to Jebo. Cut it short, bring them back halfway through and then use them 3 times off the bench or whatever it was that season. But for now, come on you red and white wizards. Up the blade!